We're exploring the idea of compassion specifically, and realizing through understanding, and in this kind of yoga we talk about the direct perception of understanding, so that we are perceiving our learning, our teaching, our understanding. When we can perceive it, it means that we can become the practice. And if we want to learn, for instance, to experience more compassion from others, so that we feel we are being compassionate, and if we can be more compassionate, then we need to actually connect into what we call compassion, but it's really a state, a frequency. So it's difficult to feel compassionate when you're not in the head space, or the heart space, or when you're eating and drinking stuff that doesn't let you feel kindly. Or when you're aggressive, angry, sad, resentful, you can't be compassionate. So it's a meditation space, and this practice of clarity. And just sitting still, it becomes apparent that there are all kinds of techniques and practices involved here. Take a large, easy breath, big sigh. For one, that helps. And then slowly open your eyes. Okay, so obviously that's like one thing that will help if we just go like, I'm breathing out that feeling, and now I'm feeling a bit more clear, and I'm now more capable or able to go like, yeah, I can see your point of view. So in terms of this workshop, so in the, who doesn't have a piece of paper like this? You don't have one? Yeah, but you have one. You had, okay. So I'm going to keep this one. I'll give it to you next time. So today and last week goes together, but they can also go separately. And today can also go with your next yoga class, and it also went with your first yoga class. So the idea is that we're working with universal energy, and universal energy in yoga is prana. It's a cultural reference to the word prana, but universal energy is nice because it's the energy of the universe. And we say things like the universal energy, but you know, we say things like, hello, how are you, and we walk away. And like, oh, what did you say? Not good. Oh, I'm so sorry, man, but I gotta go. You know? But because we can't always just go like, yeah, I feel you. It's like be really compassionate about it, because in reality we do have stuff to run to. You know? So it's like not an easy social situation, for instance. That's why we have meditation. So we make a special time so that we can connect to, for instance, compassion. So if you every day make 5 minutes and you go like, I'm just going to like be compassionate, and like you feel that energy of compassion, you feel it's arrived suddenly, but you don't have to go out and do something. You know, you're just tweaking and tuning so that you're in tune. So that then when somebody says, hey, I'm not feeling great today, you go like, I'm sorry to hear that, for instance. I've got like 2 minutes, do you want to like say something? She says, no, don't worry, man. But that person felt heard for that moment, in practice. So those are just ideas of the practice, but this particular idea of technique is really about us and how are we feeling compassion for ourselves. And I always think of it as being kind, but to self, kind to self. So people like to do those little notes where they go, be kind to self today, that kind of stuff. But we actually have to be mindful of that. So the idea is that last week we talked about asking for that compassion, and when we tune into this stuff using mantra, or whether we use the Om, or whether we just think of the word kind, if you go like compassion, you're tuning into the word, it's like it becomes a mantra for you. So the mantra is, you know, it could be anything. When we put, like look at the Buddha there, in the sun, we go like, wow man, that is so beautiful. It's like, I just want to keep looking at it. You know, but it's just there, it's sitting there, and without us looking at it, it's there. And, you know, depending on your nature, but I mean, like what kind of, how your mind works, but if you look at that, you'll get a lot of compassion, because we have that reference from it, that the Buddha is, it's a teacher of compassion. So the way I understand it, but it's also about what we make of it, is that Buddha is the teacher of understanding and compassion, and understanding compassion, for instance. So when we like Buddhism, you know, like we go like, yeah, I'm interested in Tibet and whatever, but the real thing is people would, you know, like human nature, don't we want to just feel cared for and stuff like that. That's kind of what we want as people. You know?
No battery.
That's fun to stop when it does. So when we basically then go into the space of compassion, the point of the practice is that we enter into meditation because we want to enter into meditation so that we can learn things from it. So then we go like, I want to learn about compassion, so isn't that like a place that you go to? So that's a sacred space as well, because it's the opposite of not sacred, where if I don't hold you kindly, I don't care, then that's not sacred, because kindness is and compassion is. Mm-hmm. So hence when, if the hooligans, what do you call those, the heathens or something, the other ones come, and they want to destroy my yoga studio, which they do through history, they'll come here and they'll like beat the what do you call the statues of the Buddha, because they're breaking symbolically the symbol of that compassion, and then they bring their violence or whatever it is, and that's what cultures do. Mm-hmm. And then the main thing of that understanding is that we kind of, as a humanity, we go from this side to that side, this side, that side. So then we have war, then we have peace, then we have war, then we have peace. And then, according to the Buddha as well, and according to all these great spiritual teachings, it says like you can keep going like that forever and ever and ever and ad nauseum, until you go like, no, I've had enough of this karma, I want to break that pattern. And if you want to go to another sphere, where I'm like whatever, permanently violent or permanently compassionate or whatever. So we're striving for that place where we're going into meditation, so we can be like that more often. And that's a frequency, if that makes sense. It's actually a vibration. So then, without going into the whole theory of the physics of it, that's a metaphysical situation. So the topic of the Gateless gate is because in Buddhism they have the concept that when we pass into this higher realm, we're not using a method or a dogma as it's the basis of how you feel free. So it's a practice, but it's not the technique on its own. So you're not saying in a dry way, I'm compassionate, but you actually experience the compassion. Because the dry way of the practice is an intellectualized version of it, and it has a frequency of the intellect, but it doesn't have a frequency of the heart. So when we want to call up that compassion, then we can use all kinds of techniques like mantra. So if we go like love, or you listen to love songs on the radio, then you're going like, oh, it's so sloppy and whatever sweet and, you know, like love songs. Or you can go like, no, I want to listen to like heavy metal music or something. Wah, 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 wah. Because then you become, so people who listen to heavy metal music are often people who walk around with black clothes, tattoos, whatever, and behave in certain ways. In a cliche, because you like sort of embed yourself in that frequency. It doesn't have to be like that, of course. So when we do mantra, and we start wearing white clothes and we go like, hey, like all life's a big mantra or something, then like you also give out another vibration to yourself. The thing is to not mistake, of course, the image, but to actually have the vibration on the inside. So the idea is that Gateless gate then isn't a dogma, but it is a practice or a technique, but it remains a state of frequency. So we always have to go through the Gateless gate. What's nice about reading from a book, this is the Feminine Sacred book, so the Gateless gate is accessed in Buddhism through the mantra, let me just rather read it, the one that says, I'll say, Gate Gate Paragate, that one. Parasamgate Bodhisvaha. So
it's on the soundtrack.
Yeah, couldn't think of it. So the idea that we're the enlightened one. So when we become enlightened to this information of frequency, we become a person of light, or love and light, or whatever you want to call it. And then we embody that to a degree that we always like that, or we can access that state, or we can return to it. So it's like we wake up and then we go to sleep, and then we return to waking up and we return to sleeping. But basically we're a sleeper-waker type person. So in the Buddhism, that's also called the Heart Sutra, which is like the collective text of all of that stuff. And it's interesting to read the whole thing and read it if you feel like it and so on, but it's also obscure in that it's also information and it's more text and stuff. And when you're disconnecting to the heart, so do that, close your mind off to thoughts and open the mind to the heart. So feel that it's the same mind that can think about this, it's the same mind that can heartfully, kindly feel and speak with itself. And then if you struggle with that, you just take a breath. And you go, and then that space opens up. So then if you think of the word Prajna Paramita, which is then the goddess, it's a feminine quality of compassion. So then we want to call up a supporting structure or system or energy or an icon. So we say like Mandela is an icon of Ubuntu or whatever, Rainbow Nation. But then people go like, yeah, let's be like a Rainbow Nation, but nobody behaves like a Rainbow Nation, and then it becomes a mess. But when Mandela was around, people would look up to him, and he actually projected that energy, and he went like, guys, no, not acceptable. I'm standing here, this is not cool, you guys must be a Rainbow Nation. And he didn't do it with a police force, he like inspired everyone. So we could also sit and go like Mandela, for instance, and then feel that energy. So it's an icon, in other words, like that's what your practice is. So if you close your eyes and you think of Buddha and Buddha nature, which is this idea that we have that kindness in us, and that with practice we can be the Bodhisattva or the sattvic, clear, conscious beings that we are on this level, then Prajna Paramita is thought of as the mother of Buddha. So the feminine that gave birth to the Buddha. It raises some questions about who's God and who's like Shiva and so on. But we could think of the divine masculine and the divine feminine that manifests as the Buddha of India, that we know in the West as that Buddha. And that we practicing to, in a way, become or emulate or be inspired by, which is a nice way to think of it. Buddha is inspiring for us. Then we don't like strive too high. And at the same time, we want to get into it and experience it. So what I'm reading from the book is that Prajna Paramita represents the teachings of the Buddha, because in the turnings of the Dharma wheel, that's that karma that I was talking about, where things come and go into opposites, we start to achieve emptiness, not as a nothingness but as a no separation or a non-duality that includes everything. So then we feel compassionate about when it's not kind, and we feel compassionate when it is kind, because we realize it's a cycle from the one to the other. And while Prajna Paramita is a difficult word to say, we can just feel the energy of that. But we could, for instance, say Om, which contains Buddha, contains your Buddha nature, contains Prajna Paramita, contains Shiva as well. So when we go a deep in-breath and we make a big Om sound, big sigh. You feel simultaneously a kind of a nothingness and a fullness. And it's a fullness of this everything that is, but we can't really define it as full of nothing or empty or something. It's more like a state of body mind. So when we start to practice these things, then we can start asking, I mean, sometimes I do this stuff, or sometimes I do these, like right now. I mean, yeah, it's like, how's this working out, or is this really useful, and so on. Because we're sitting here peacefully and we go like, yeah, no, so we have it, so what anyway? There's a certain contentment about it. And then that's exactly why it's really beautiful. But then the truth of spiritual practice, yoga practice and so on is, as soon as we leave, or sooner or later after we left, then something comes up that confronts this peace. Like you walk out there and you see suffering, you walk out there and you see people behaving like strangely, and then you behave, you suddenly find after 3 seconds that you did something really weird and stupid, unconsciously stupid. And you go like, whoa, how did I do that? I was just now in a yoga class. And then we got to go like, yeah, it's because I'm not that enlightened perhaps, and let's have compassion for that. And we like add these things up. Then we use this practice, and like any training, it's like if you say to me now, let's go to India for yoga training, I'm like, yeah, it's okay to go, it's nice to learn things. I'm like, you're going for the food, it's really nice food. But you don't really go there to sit for hours and hours in the yoga room and like learn Sanskrit and weird stuff that you could have tried and remember. That's not that much fun. It's much more fun to like go and have like really nice meal and stuff like that. So, but the two balances, and the one actually does not have meaning with the other. So I wouldn't, for instance, travel all the way there only for the food. And I'm actually going for the learning, but it's made pleasant by the other balance. And then you use the one with the other. So it's like you eat and then you exercise and then you remain healthy. If you only eat or only exercise, the one will throw out the balance of the whole. It's obvious stuff. So in other words, to do this, to be in the space, we need to be able to access that space. And while in a certain way we're not accessing the space now because we're talking about it and I'm talking about it and you're not experiencing it, you're not putting it to practice, unless you're sitting there and you're also going like, yeah, right, it's like true, I'd rather be on the beach or something. But at the same time, there's always more chances to be on the beach. But there's only the learning when you have that particular moment. So that's why we meditate as well. So according to yoga and healing with universal energy, we want to be able to access that energy. And that's what we did last week with the map. And the idea of that is that this icon of compassion, or Mandela we can hold as an icon of the Rainbow Nation, we just know that it's there. And it's like we say the God smiled kindly on us. But when we get this feeling of like, whoa, I'm standing here alone, it's like the feeling that South Africans have now. We go like, this is like not working out well here. And it's like we may have a sense, no, but we're in trouble, for instance. Because we go like, no, the gods are not smiling kindly on us. We could take that approach, or we can go like, yeah, but Mandela is still there in spirit. So then we talked about that the other day, and then you walk out into the road and you see like, no, man, like actually Buddha is like pretty much everywhere, it's just because we're not recognizing it. We're not tuning into our Buddha nature, and then we don't see it in other people's Buddha nature, for instance. And then when we grow that Buddha nature, it sort of maintains the balance. So it needs to be that constant practice, but likewise the constant practice. So another perfect example for me is, like I go out surfing this morning, like I only have 20 minutes before the yoga class. I'm like, that really sucks, it does, because who wants to, like, and I'm like, 20 minutes better than nothing. Okay, cool. Then immediately I'm like, okay, not too bad. And then you ride a wave and then it's not so great, and then a better wave comes and I'm like, no, I've got to go. And then like I have to remind myself that I had the perfect wave because it's the only wave that I had. So, the one I didn't have is not perfect because you didn't have it. And you can call it a perfect imperfection and so on, but the point I'm really making is that it's a constant practice, it's a constant reminder. And it's the same as if we don't keep constant maintenance, then things fall apart. If we only maintain, then things also remain the same, but it gradually erodes because that's the level of erosion that takes place. So if we don't build things up beyond the point of maintenance, we actually slide down. And in nature we call it entropy, so you can make your garden work and work and work and blah, 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 but as soon as you walk away it goes into natural entropy. So what we're doing is extremely unnatural, in that we want to go like, we want to rise up to that level of Mandela, as an example. And you're like, geez, how do you do that? And if you start thinking about it, you go like, oh man, I don't think, it's like quite a journey, because you don't arrive at that place without going through a lot. So we need help again. So that's why we have to go on our knees and say, Mother of Compassion, please can you like mother me, and then literally feel it. And if you're not feeling it, then learn to feel it and go on until you can feel it. Because if we sit like this, closing our eyes, and last week we started just talking about the soul and connecting into the soul. So the soul, think of that as the core being in your heart, or who you really are, or the Buddha nature. So according to the story, Buddha discovered himself, or his soul nature, his Buddha nature, which was birthed from Mother Buddha, or the mother of Buddhas. Call it a legend or a myth or a beautiful story. We were born of mothers and fathers. So these are our spiritual mothers and fathers. And then feel guided by that what we call higher self, which is our higher nature, our Buddha nature or soul. And then don't make it complicated, just feel the energy of that support. It's like with two people in the same body. Breathe in, big out breath. So last week, that's why I used that example that we have at least two realities going on at the same time. The one is like, how's it Annie? And the other one is like, the person that only you know. And that person doesn't get displayed because it's irrelevant, it's not how it is. But then sometimes, like I said in the yoga class, we can express that person. So you look at the dolphins, and it's like they're made to swim like that. So they go like, that's like what they do, like we made differently. But it would be horrible to bend the dolphin the other way and like make their smiles unhappy. It like it wouldn't be a dolphin anymore. But if you put the dolphin arguably like in a Western civilization, it's debatable how long the dolphin's going to look like that, because you're taking him out of that frequency. So we need to access into that frequency. And we can't just do it with a bit of this and a bit of that. It needs to be quite a focused practice. And that's the point. So if we do it regularly, and we use these things regularly, we start using a bigger energy than that what causes entropy. Okay. So if you just do a little bit of like panel beating and like painting over the surface, it's like flimsy. So you've got to really rebuild the structure. So then what the spiritual practice is one of transformation. And what I was talking about last week is that so if we choose to want to transform, to have transformation, then we actually have to put shoulder to wheel basically, but also actually have a plan as well. Not just go like, all of this sucks and now we're going to change it, and you go like, okay, without a plan, So we also regroup and we sit still. And one of the classic ideas of coming up with a plan is to like stand away from everything. And you go to the coffee shop and you go like, what do we actually want? Or in meditation, who do I actually want to be? Who am I? Oh, I don't know. So you don't know who you are, what you want, and now you want to transform everything. You go like, yeah, I don't want to be like this, but I want to be like, yeah, of course, I want to be like permanently, what did I say? Permanently happy or something. Yeah, you want to be permanently relaxed, yeah. So I want to be permanently relaxed, that's my goal in life.
Bliss.
Yeah, bliss, permanently relaxed at a high frequency. So if you set out to do that, then you have a lot of tasks, because maybe your body is tight, maybe your attitude is like hurting, or maybe you keep landing up in a place where it's uncomfortable. Okay. So that's the gateless gate that we go through, and when we use that gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha, we're basically saying, I want to be like the Buddha. I want to go through this, and I want to be to the Buddha. So it's a gateless gate, because what you'll find is, if you start saying that mantra, whether you read it or not, you start vibrating at the consciousness of that. So when we start saying Om more, if you shower every day, you become more clean. If you drink a glass of water every day, you become more clean. It's just like that. So when we start saying that, it clears the psyche of the vibrations, of dirty vibrations. And then it becomes purified and you become transformed. And the mantra means that we can go through a wall, like a perception, and it literally is a perception because we perceive our life to be tight. So now you have to go like whatever. And then we move through that, but you're actually going through a wall that doesn't have a gate. So you actually have to do something that's unthinkable, which is to walk through walls. So you have to be like a ghost. Like you don't. So the reason why a ghost can walk through the wall is because they're not materialized like a wall is. That's why they like appear in your room even if the door is locked. You can't like be safe from a ghost. But also the same way the spirits you can't lock the spirit out. You can be in a prison cell and you can say, "Spirit, come," and then spirit appears. And then everyone goes like, "Shame, this poor guy's like locked up in the cell," and the guy's like, "No man, it's cool, it's like we've got all my friends here and personal parameters here," and it's like, you know, that's the idea of like if you have a book in the cell, then how free are you, or how locked up is the person outside? Yeah. Or the warden story, I think. So when we use these classic mantras, they're a gateway to our soul. And when I say soul purpose, it's got two purposes. So one is, what is your soul purpose? What are you doing with your life? But another soul purpose is also the purpose to connect to the soul, which comes down to that same thing of, you sit and meditate, you go, "Who am I?" And you go like, "I don't know, I better find out," or "No, don't bother," "Yeah." And you go like, "Oh, but the meditation is showing me as well." So our soul purpose is to know who we are, and then through knowing who we are, like, "Oh yeah, I'm an engineer, that's my soul purpose, I want to build things." Or you're like, "Yeah, I want to build things, but I'm not an engineer, so what do I build?" You know, build communities. And then how do you build communities? By using a skill. You go like, like 3 people here, and then 5 people over there, stack them on top of each other, and you've got like 8 people standing each other. It's like pretty awesome. You're like a community of 8 people standing stacked up. It's a building principle. The highest person gets the best view. So the whole practice is based on this idea of surrender, because you're actually surrendering to an energy, and that's the same thing as the wave. So something that happens then is like you want to get the perfect wave, but there isn't time. Then you can surrender to that unassailable fact that you're not making it and you didn't get it, but it's perfect the way it is, because you can't change the fact that this is how it actually happened. But what you're transforming is your attitude, and you come back and you go like, "Okay, so I didn't get the wave, but I was in the water at least." And you go like, "Hey, how's that bad?" Because I often in the water, and then I think, "Is it about the wave?" And I'm like, "No, is it about the water?" Yeah, it's always about the water, because it's the water that makes you feel in that particular way. You know, and so it's like also then finding out what's the soul of the experience, or what is the essence of the essence of the essence, and so on. So it's a refining process. And then part of this whole process, I said last week, is about following your bliss, which is your sense of where do I get that bliss experience from, and then actually go to do it. So I won't serve the whole day, because by 12 o'clock the sun's too much, and then I'm like tired of it. It's like kind of becomes like same or whatever. So you go like quickly, and you come back, and then you use that energy to do other things. But if you take that little bit of peak experience away, it's like going through the day without that one little sweet or something that sweetens up the situation. Okay, so the sacred names in the mantra, it establishes a rhythm or a frequency, and then actually a reality which we live by. So our reality changes completely, but we keep doing the same stuff. So my career looks exactly the same as it did 30 years ago, and I'm like, is this good or bad? But it's not at all the same, because it's evolved within itself. so it keeps transforming itself. So when next time you think that something didn't change, it's not really true, because things are always changing. So even if it's devolved, you know, it's changed, and then that's an opportunity. So the word is and is the of the eternal light, or the foundation of salvation. And that salvation is the loaded word of the am I saved or not, but it's also a salve of, you know, you've got a cut and you put a salve on it. And then more importantly, it's like you have a cut and you go like, I'm just going to put it in the sun, keep it dry, keep it open a little bit, and then it will heal itself through life force. You know, so we don't rush off to the doctor. You get these people that go like, I think I'm getting a cold, I'm just now take medicine. And it's like, no man, just climb in bed, rest for a day, and then you'll be fine. Most likely. Okay, so the soul is in a state of consciousness. So on the topic of the sacred words and sacred names, so we get culturally many different sacred expressions. Like, so the one's not better than the other, and we mustn't make that mistake or think, I don't understand the word, so, you know. So if you say to somebody in a foreign language, I don't like you or something, and you say it in a certain way, then they'll get a mixed message, because they're going like, why is the person smiling at me, but I don't pick that vibe up, you know. Or you say a language that they don't understand, and they go like, I can feel this person's intention. So